The soft hum of the Stardust Lumen was Alara's oldest lullaby. It vibrated through the floor plates of her room, a deep, resonant thrum that was the breath of the colossal vessel. To her, it wasn't just a ship, it was the world, an entire universe folded into a single magnificent metal and biodome shell, hurtling through the inky black. Tonight, the hum felt a little different. Or maybe it was just Alara. She lay curled on her sleep pad, its biogel molding perfectly to her small frame, mimicking the gentle sway of a hammock. Above her, the ceiling shimmered, displaying a slow-motion cascade of phosphorescent water, a memory of a lost ocean her parents spoke of, only in hushed, reverent tones. It was one of 100 environmental programs Pip, her personal AI, could project. "Good evening, Alara," Pip chirped, its voice a synthesized whisper that always sounded exactly like the rustle of leaves in the Lumen's central arboretum. Pip was a floating sphere of polished chrome, usually hovering near her bedside, its single optical sensor glowing a soft blue. Tonight, it was a deeper, more thoughtful indigo. "Sleep cycle initiated in 10 minutes. Would you like a story from the archives, or shall we review your celestial cartography lesson from today?" Alara sighed, rolling onto her back. "Neither, Pip. Can you just show me the stars? The real ones?" Pip's optical sensor blinked. "Affirmative, Alara. Diverting primary viewport feed to your sleep pad ceiling. Please note, long-term exposure to unfiltered deep space visuals before sleep is not recommended for cognitive development protocols." "Just for a minute," Alara murmured, already mesmerized as the phosphorescent water faded, replaced by the breathtaking, terrifying glorious expanse of the cosmos. Pinpricks of light, blazing nebulae, the ghostly swirl of distant galaxies. It was all there, raw and unfiltered, stretching into infinity. The Stardust Lumen's main observation deck, the Stellar Eye, had the best views, but her personal feed was good enough for a bedtime glimpse. She'd grown up with these stars. They were her constant companions, silent witnesses to her 9 years of life. Every morning, the viewport in her main living area would cycle through simulated sunrises over artificial forests or oceans. But every night, if she asked, Pip would grant her this brief, humbling connection to the true outside. Tonight, however, something felt off. Her gaze drifted to a familiar constellation, the one her mother, Dr. Iris Thorne, had taught her to identify just last cycle. "D. Weaver's Loom," her mother called it, a delicate cluster of 7 bright stars that formed a rough parallelogram. "Each thread a story, Alara," she'd said, tracing the lines on a holographic star chart, "connecting us to where we came from and where we're going." But tonight, one of the stars in the loom seemed fainter, almost like it was flickering, or perhaps partially obscured by something Alara couldn't quite discern. She squinted, pressing her face closer to the bioluminescent ceiling. It wasn't just fainter. It was gone. Or not entirely gone, but replaced by a ghostly smear, a whisper of light where a vibrant star should have been. "Pip," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the ship's hum. "Is the Weaver's Loom supposed to have 6 stars now?" Pip's sensor pulsed. "Query Celestial Database. The Weaver's Loom, or designation Proxima Cluster 77 Delta, consists of 7 primary stellar bodies, no known anomalies or stellar decay events reported in its vicinity for the past 5 standard cycles." "But look," Alara insisted, pointing a small finger at the ceiling. "There's only 6, and that smudge." Pip zoomed in, a small square of magnified stars appearing in the corner of the projection. Even magnified, the 7th star was missing, replaced by a diffuse, almost transparent mist that caught the light in an odd way, like a smudge on clean glass. "Anomalous visual data detected," Pip stated, its voice losing a fraction of its usual calm. "Cross-referencing with primary stellar eye feed. One moment, Alara." The hum of the Stardust Lumen seemed to deepen. Alara held her breath, a strange mix of excitement and unease coiling in her stomach. What if she discovered something? Something important? "Primary stellar eye feed confirms. No anomaly," Pip reported, a hint of confusion in its synthesized tone. The Weaver's loom displays all 7 stellar bodies as expected. Perhaps a temporary interference with your personal viewport's projection matrix, Elara. I recommend a full diagnostic cycle. Elara frowned. But I saw it, Pip. It was gone. She rubbed her eyes. Was she just tired? Imagining things? She knew Pip was rarely wrong. Her personal viewport usually had perfect fidelity. Perhaps your cognitive processes are experiencing pre-sleep distortions, Pip suggested gently. Shall I revert to the phosphorescent water sequence? Reluctantly, Elara nodded. The stars faded, replaced by the soothing familiar glow of the simulated water. The missing star was gone, replaced by tranquil ripples. But the image of that ghostly smudge, where a star should have been, lingered in her mind. The next morning, the ship felt different. Elara knew it was probably just her, still thinking about the missing star. After a nutrient-paced breakfast, today's flavor was tropical citrus blast, a welcome change from the usual earthy greens. She navigated the pristine corridors of her residential quadrant. The Stardust Lumen was a marvel of biomechanical engineering, a series of colossal, interconnected domes, each with its own purpose. There were the residential sections like hers with their neat rows of habitat units, the vast agricultural domes where genetically optimized crops grew under artificial suns, the shimmering hydrodomes that recycled every drop of water, and most magnificent of all, the central arboretum, a towering, multi-tiered forest that stretched almost a kilometer high, a living monument to the lost green world of Earth. Today was her day for independent study in the arboretum. Her mother, Dr. Aris Thorne, was usually there, tending to her exotic xenobotanical specimens, but today she had a special project. Critical atmospheric stabilization protocols, her mother had explained, her brow furrowed in concentration. It's delicate work, sweet pea. Can't have any fluctuations. Elara understood. Every system on the Stardust Lumen was critical. Their journey was long, spanning generations. The ship was their ark, their future, and its continued function was paramount. As she entered the arboretum, the air immediately grew richer, heavier with the scent of damp earth and exotic blossoms. Sunlight, filtered through the thick canopy above, dappled the forest floor. Pip, hovering silently behind her, projected her daily lesson plan. Today's module, Bioluminescent Flora of Exilus Prime. Observe the fungal gardens in Sector Gamma 7, and record any new growth patterns. Elara loved the arboretum. It was the closest thing to a natural world she knew. She spent hours sketching the alien plants, their leaves shimmering with iridescent colors, their flowers unfolding in slow, hypnotic dances. But today, her mind kept drifting back to the stars. She completed her observations, dutifully recording every detail, but her gaze kept wandering upwards, through the dense foliage, towards the distant, translucent dome that formed the arboretum's ceiling. Beyond that, she knew, were the outer layers of the ship. And then, the real stars. Later, as she cycled back through the residential corridors, she noticed something else. The usual gentle thrum of the Stardust Lumen seemed to have a faint, secondary pulse beneath it, like a heartbeat trying to keep time with an irregular rhythm. It was almost imperceptible, easy to dismiss as her imagination, but it was there. She found her parents in the main family commons. A rare occurrence. Usually, dinner was a hurried affair, either in their separate labs or their small habitat unit. But tonight, they were both at the central dining table, a sleek surface that materialized various food preparations from the integrated nutrient dispenser. Her father, Commander Cale Thorne, was a man of quiet strength, his dark hair streaked with silver, his eyes holding the faraway look of someone who spent most of his time navigating the vast emptiness between star systems. He was the Lumen's chief navigator, responsible for charting their course through the cosmic ocean. Her mother, Dr. Aris Thorne, was a whirlwind of energy, her bright, inquisitive eyes missing nothing, even when her mind was clearly miles away, probably contemplating the photosynthetic efficiency of some newly discovered fungus. Elara, sweet pea. Just in time, her mother greeted, a warm smile momentarily erasing the lines of concentration from her face. Today's culinary marvel, synthetic seaweed delight with a side of enriched protein cubes. Elara suppressed a grimace. Thanks, Mom. She took her usual seat, the biogel chair adjusting to her weight. How was the arboretum, Elara? Her father asked, his voice a low rumble. He didn't look up from the datapad he was still reviewing, its holographic interface glowing faintly. It was good, Elara said, then hesitated. But I saw something weird last night, Dad. On the stars. Her father finally looked up, his brow furrowing slightly. Weird? What do you mean, weird? One of the stars in the Weaver's loom was gone. Or, it looked like a smudge. Pip said it was a visual anomaly on my display, but I really think I saw it. Her mother paused, her fork halfway to her mouth. She exchanged a quick, unreadable glance with her father. A smudge, you say? Her mother asked, her voice a little too casual. Sometimes, Elara, your personal viewport can have minor pixelation issues, or perhaps a bit of cosmic dust passed between the ship and the star. It's an immense distance after all. But Pip checked the stellar eye feed, and it said everything was normal, but my feed showed it. Her father cleared his throat. Pip's diagnostic protocols are highly reliable, Elara. It's likely just a slight calibration error with your personal unit. We'll have a tech run a full system check on it tomorrow, all right? His tone was dismissive, almost too quick. Elara felt a familiar pang of disappointment. They were always busy. Always focused on the ship, on the mission, on things she couldn't fully grasp. Sometimes, it felt like her own observations, her own small wonders, were just distractions. Okay, she mumbled, pushing around her seaweed delight. The conversation shifted to her parents' work. Her mother spoke of a new fungal strain that was unexpectedly resistant to the atmospheric purifiers, causing a slight uptick in SO2 levels in the hydrodomes. Her father talked about recalibrating the primary drive coils, a task that would require a temporary reduction in gravity fields in certain sections of the ship. Just for a few hours, he assured her. Nothing you'll really notice, Elara. Just a bit lighter on your feet. But Elara was listening to the subtext, the subtle shifts in their voices, the way their eyes met, quick and worried, when they thought she wasn't looking. It wasn't just about atmospheric purifiers or drive coils. There was an underlying tension, a quiet urgency that hadn't been there before. After dinner, as her parents retreated to their respective labs, important data uploads, sweet pea, her mother had explained, won't be long, Elara felt a restless energy. The thought of the missing star gnawed at her. She knew what she had seen. Pip's diagnostics might be reliable, but her own eyes had seen it too. She wandered out of their habitat unit, through the quiet corridors, the soft glow of the wall panels guiding her. Her feet, usually light, felt even lighter now, a subtle hint of her father's temporary reduction in gravity. She found herself, as she often did when seeking solace or answers, at one of the smaller, less frequented observation decks. This one was tucked away in a rarely used service quadrant, a circular room with a single massive viewport that stretched from floor to ceiling. It was usually empty, the silence broken only by the Stardust Lumen's steady hum. The view here was breathtakingly stark. No simulated environments, no filtered light. Just the raw, unadulterated blackness of space, studded with a million indifferent stars. Here, the hum was louder, a deeper vibration that seemed to emanate directly from the ship's massive structure. Elara pressed her palms against the cool, transparent durasteel of the viewport. The stars blazed, cold and beautiful. She found the Weaver's loom again. This time, all 7 stars were there, glittering brightly, exactly as they should be. She frowned. Had it truly been her imagination? A trick of light, or tiredness? Then, as she watched, a faint shimmer, almost imperceptible, passed through the very edge of the viewport's field of vision. It was like a ripple in water, but in the emptiness of space. It vanished as quickly as it appeared. Elara held her breath. What was that? Me. And one. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a meteor. It was a distortion, a momentary bend in the light itself. And it was heading towards the Weaver's loom. She knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her bones, that she hadn't imagined the missing star last night. And the smudge she saw? It wasn't an error. It was something. A faint, almost musical chime echoed through the observation deck. It was the ship's central AI, the Lumen's voice, announcing a system-wide status update. Attention all personnel. Minor energy fluctuations detected in Sector Alpha 9. All non-essential systems temporarily diverting power to core stabilization. Gravitational fields in residential zones will experience a momentary reduction of 7.2%. Please exercise caution. Elara barely registered the message. Sector Alpha 9 was deep within the ship's engine core, far from anything she'd ever seen. But energy fluctuations and core stabilization sounded serious. And the gravity reduction was definitely more than a bit lighter on her feet. She felt like she could almost float if she pushed off the floor. She turned from the viewport, her mind buzzing. Her parents were busy, dismissive. Pip was programmed to follow protocols. If she wanted answers, she would have to find them herself. She thought of her mother's office, a sanctuary of exotic plants and complex data terminals. Her mother kept everything meticulously organized, but Elara knew there were always hidden nooks, forgotten drawers, data pads stashed away for later. Sometimes, when her mother was explaining a particularly complex xenobotanical concept, she would pull out old star charts, showing Elara where a specific plant originated, or how a solar flare might affect its growth. Elara knew where her mother kept her oldest star charts, the ones that weren't integrated into the Lumen's digital database. They were physical, printed on flexible, translucent material, stored in a dusty, forgotten compartment behind a loose panel in her mother's personal desk. Her mother always said they were historical curiosities, relics from the early days of interstellar cartography, before the hyper-accurate digital projections. Taking a deep breath, Elara made her way towards her mother's lab. The corridors were quieter now, the ship's hum feeling more pronounced, almost urgent. The partial gravity reduction made her steps feel unusually light, almost bouncy. She felt like she was on an adventure, even though she was still inside her own home. She reached her mother's lab, a larger, more complex version of her own habitat unit, filled with glowing terrariums and holographic displays, showcasing swirling genetic sequences. The door slid open silently, responding to her parents' biometric signature, a trick she'd learned by watching her mother. The lab was dark, save for the soft glow of the terrariums. Her mother wasn't there. Elara moved to the desk, her heart thumping a little faster. She found the loose panel, just as she remembered, tucked away behind a stack of empty nutrient gel canisters. With a gentle tug, it popped open, revealing a small, dusty compartment. Inside, nestled beneath a collection of dried alien flower specimens, were the old star charts. They felt cool and slightly brittle to the touch. She pulled them out, unrolling the largest one carefully. It depicted the familiar constellations, hand-drawn with faded lines, alongside scientific notations in her mother's elegant script. She found the Weaver's Loom. And next to it, a small handwritten note, almost illegible, tucked into the margin. Anomaly detected. Not natural. Source unknown. Monitor closely. Do not alert command yet. KT and AT. KT and AT. Kale Thorn and Eris Thorn. Her parents. Elara's breath hitched. They knew. They had known all along about the anomaly in the Weaver's Loom. And they hadn't told her. They hadn't told anyone. The old star chart suddenly felt heavy in her hands. The Stardust Lumen's hum seemed to take on a new meaning. No longer just a lullaby, but a secret whispered from the very heart of her world. The stars outside, once just beautiful lights, now held a hidden truth, a mystery her parents were trying to keep hidden. And somehow, that mystery was connected to the Stardust Lumen itself. A single, faint shimmer, like the one she'd just seen at the observation deck, passed over the star chart, a momentary ripple of light that seemed to emanate from the very material of the chart. It faded, leaving the old paper unchanged, but Elara felt a chill. She looked up, her gaze drawn to the lab's main viewport, which usually displayed a simulated Earth sunset. Tonight, it showed the raw, unfiltered cosmos, just like her room had last night. And there in the distance, barely visible to the naked eye, was the Weaver's Loom. All 7 stars. But if she squinted, if she focused just right, she could almost see it again. The faint, ghostly smudge. A shimmer. A distortion. The hum of the Stardust Lumen deepened, a low, urgent thrum. Elara clutched the star chart to her chest, her young mind alight with a sudden, electrifying realization. The stars weren't just outside her home. They were talking to it. And her home, the Stardust Lumen, was talking back. And her parents were caught in the middle. She wasn't just a child on a journey anymore. She was a silent witness to a secret. And she intended to find out what it was. The Stardust Lumen, usually a symphony of gentle hums and the quiet whir of its life support systems, now felt charged, like a giant, slumbering creature awakening. Ilara slipped out of the observation deck, the star chart still warm from her grasp. Her parents, she knew, would be in the command center, their faces bathed in the cool glow of the navigation displays, their voices hushed. But she needed more than hushed voices. She needed data. Her first stop was the ship's central conduit, a shimmering tunnel of light that ran through the heart of the lumen, connecting all its systems. Most children saw it as a magical shortcut to different decks, a playful slide through energy fields. Ilara saw it as the ship's nervous system. She pressed her palm against the pulsating wall, feeling the subtle vibrations, trying to discern a rhythm, a pattern. Was the deeper thrum she'd heard earlier still present? It was fainter now, but persistent, like a distant heartbeat. She decided to play. Slipping into the conduit, she let the soft energy current carry her, giggling as she zipped past the hydroponics lab, the zero-G training room, and the vast cargo bay. But her eyes weren't just on the blur of passing decks. They were scanning the small illuminated data panels embedded at various junctures, looking for anomalies. Most displayed routine information. Atmospheric pressure, power consumption, velocity vectors. But near the ship's external communication array, a panel flickered with a cascade of unfamiliar symbols. A language she didn't recognize, interwoven with what looked like energy readings. Spiking, then receding, then spiking again. It was too fast, too complex for her young mind to fully grasp, but it confirmed her suspicion. The lumen was indeed sending and receiving. Later that evening, Ilara sat at the dinner table, pushing nutrient paste around her plate. Her father, Commander Kalen, was unusually quiet, his gaze distant even when he smiled at her. Her mother, Dr. Aris, a xenobotanist whose passion for alien flora was rivaled only by her love for Ilara, seemed preoccupied, tapping a complex sequence of codes into her datapad under the table. They spoke of the routine, atmospheric conditions of the next nebula they'd passed through, the deliciousness of synthetic mangoes. But beneath the surface, Ilara felt the tension, a taut wire stretched between them. "Mom, Dad," she began, trying to sound casual. The lumen felt different today, like it was singing a new song. Kalen's fork paused halfway to his mouth. Artis looked up, her expression carefully neutral. "Oh, what kind of song, sweetie?" Aris asked, her voice perhaps a little too light. "A deep one." And the stars outside were shimmering, more than usual. Ilara watched them, looking for any tell. Kalen cleared his throat. "Just a bit of interstellar dust, Ilara. We're passing through a particularly dense region, nothing to worry about. The lumen is perfectly safe." He offered a reassuring smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Ilara knew better. Interstellar dust didn't make the ship thrum with urgency, and it certainly didn't cause ghostly smudges to appear outside the viewport. She nodded, pretending to accept their explanation, but her resolve hardened. They weren't going to tell her. She would have to find out on her own. Her next target was her mother's lab. Dr. Aris' xenobotanical research occupied a significant portion of the Stardust Lumen, a vibrant, fragrant ecosystem teeming with glowing flora from countless worlds. It was usually a place of wonder for Ilara, a living kaleidoscope of alien beauty. Now, it was a potential source of clues. Aris often left her datapad unlocked when engrossed in a rare bloom, or a holographic projection of an exotic root structure. The following morning, while her parents were in their daily debriefing session in the command center, Ilara snuck into the lab. The air was thick with the scent of sweet, earthy spices, and the metallic tang of newly synthesized compounds. Bioluminescent fungi pulsed softly in glass terrariums, casting a rainbow glow on the walls. Ilara navigated the winding paths between towering vine-like plants, her heart thumping a quick rhythm against her ribs. She found Aris' main workstation, a sleek, curved console embedded with holographic projectors. Usually, It displayed botanical schematics, or growth patterns. Today, one projector pulsed with a faint, complex diagram Alara had never seen. It wasn't a plant. It looked like a geometric pattern, intricate and symmetrical, radiating outwards from a central point. Interspersed within the pattern were what looked like constellations, familiar star groupings from her chart, but arranged in an unfamiliar sequence, almost like a code. Alara reached out, her fingers hovering over the holographic projection. As she did, a small crystalline device, no bigger than her thumbnail, fell from a hidden compartment beneath the console. It clattered softly onto the soft, mossy floor. Alara quickly scooped it up. It was warm to the touch, pulsing with a faint internal light, mirroring the pattern she'd seen projected. It felt organic, yet artificial, smooth and cool like polished stone, but with a subtle, internal tremor. Before she could examine it further, she heard footsteps approaching. Panic seized her. She shoved the device into her pocket, quickly clearing the holographic display back to Eris's usual botanical notes. She pretended to be examining a particularly vibrant crimson-leafed plant, feigning intense interest. Iris entered, a slight frown on her face. "Alara? What are you doing in here, sweetie? I thought you were with your father in the recreation lounge." "Oh, hi, Mom. I wanted to see the new Solarian moss. It's so pretty," Alara gushed, pointing at a random patch of glowing green. Iris's frown softened into a tired smile. "It is, isn't it? But you know not to touch anything without asking. Some of these specimens are quite delicate." She walked over to her console, her eyes scanning the display. Alara held her breath, expecting her mother to notice the subtle change, the missing device. But Iris only sighed, tapping a few commands, and the holographic diagram Alara had seen earlier reappeared, though now it was overlaid with complex calculations and a countdown timer. A countdown timer. Alara's breath hitched. Her parents were counting down to something. That night, the crystalline device felt heavy in Alara's pocket. She couldn't sleep. The hum of the Stardust Lumen was growing steadily louder again, and the faint, ghostly smudge outside the viewport seemed to have solidified slightly, taking on a more defined, albeit still blurry, shape. It was larger than before too, almost like a vast, dark sail unfurling against the backdrop of distant stars. She crept out of her bunk, the device clutched in her hand. She needed to understand what it was. Her personal console, though simplified for a child, had a universal scanner. She placed the crystal onto the pad. The scanner whirred, its beam tracing the intricate surface of the object. A moment later, data flooded her screen. Object type: unknown. Energy signature: fluctuating, complex harmonic resonance. Origin: extragalactic. Primary function: data conduit transceiver dot. Undemande, understande menistalkai. Then a series of schematics appeared depicting the device interacting with something else. A larger structure, cylindrical and dark, with a series of glowing apertures. The image was fleeting, incomplete, but Alara recognized elements of the design. They looked disturbingly similar to the ghostly smudge outside, now clearer in her mind's eye. The scanner also displayed a snippet of encrypted data, a string of symbols identical to those she'd seen flashing on the Lumen's central conduit panel. But beneath the encryption, the scanner managed to pick up a single repeated word, a word that vibrated with ancient power, a word that sent a shiver down Alara's spine. Whispers. Whispers. What whispers? From whom? And what did it have to do with the countdown? The Stardust Lumen continued its journey, hurtling through a majestic, nebular expanse. Streaks of crimson and violet gas swirled outside the viewports, painting the void in breathtaking hues. Alara spent hours in the observation deck, not just marveling at the cosmic ballet, but watching. The ghostly smudge, the whisper's entity, was now a constant companion, maintaining a precise distance from the Lumen, always just on the edge of visibility, like a shy, colossal shadow. Her parents were even more withdrawn. Kalen spent long hours in the command center, his face etched with a tension Alara had never seen. Iris, while still tending to her botanical specimens, was frequently on her datapad, her brows furrowed in concentration, often in hushed conversations with Kalen through the ship's comm system. Ilara noticed they no longer used their full names but code names, Navigator for Kalen, Arboretum for Eris. And sometimes she heard a third code name, whispered with reverence. Starchild. Ilara wondered who Starchild was. Maybe a vital member of their crew, someone they were trying to reach? Or perhaps someone they were trying to protect. One afternoon, Ilara was in the recreation lounge, ostensibly building a complex Star Cruiser model out of modular synth blocks. In reality, she was listening. Her parents were having a rare face-to-face conversation in the adjacent galley, their voices low but clear enough for the lounge-sensitive acoustic pickups to transmit. The harmonic resonance is stabilizing. Eris's voice, usually so calm, was edged with a tremor. The crystalline matrix is almost fully aligned. We're on schedule. On schedule for what, Aris? Kalen's voice was tight. The readings are unprecedented. The energy fluctuations, they're off the charts. We don't fully understand what we're about to activate. We have to, Kalen. We've come too far. The whispers are growing stronger. They're reaching out. We have to answer. And what if the answer isn't what we expect? What if we're inviting something dangerous into our home? Into her home? The unspoken Ilara hung heavy in the air. Ilara froze, her hands still on the synth blocks. They were talking about the Lumen. About her. A knot of fear and confusion tightened in her stomach. The ancient text spoke of this, Eris countered, her voice firmer now. The Lumen song. A bridge across the void. A connection to the primordial consciousness of the galaxy. It's what our ancestors sought for millennia. The Starchild is the key. Childing. Donanti, Gantani. The codename. It was important. But what did it mean? And what did it have to do with Ilara, with her home, with the whispers? Kalen sighed heavily. The legends also spoke of the great silence that followed the last attempt. Worlds consumed, civilizations lost. We're playing with forces beyond our comprehension, Aris. And what is exploration, Kalen, if not daring to comprehend the incomprehensible? This is our destiny. It's why the Lumen was built, why we were chosen. Their voices faded as they moved away, leaving Ilara alone with a whirlwind of terrifying implications. Primordial consciousness. Lumen, song. Worlds consumed. Destiny. And the Starchild, who was somehow the key. That night, the Stardust Lumen entered a region of space unlike any Ilara had ever seen. The stars seemed to thin out, replaced by swirling currents of dark matter, punctuated by distant, shimmering points of light that pulsed with an ethereal, almost living glow. The ghostly smudge outside the viewport was no longer a smudge. It was a vast, dark vessel, its surface a mosaic of intricate organic patterns, like the crystalline device Ilara had found, but on a colossal scale. It didn't have engines or visible propulsion. It simply wasing, hovering silently and possibly beside the Lumen. The hum of Ilara's home was now a full-bodied resonance, a deep, vibrating chord that resonated not just through the ship's hull, but through Ilara's very bones. The crystalline device in her pocket grew warmer, pulsing in sync with the Lumen's song. She knew what she had to do. She had to see the command center. She waited until the ship's internal chronometer indicated the deepest part of the night cycle, when even her parents would snatch a few hours of rest. Slipping through the quiet corridors, the Lumen's internal lighting dimmed to a soft glow. Ilara made her way to the command deck. The door slid open with a whisper-soft hiss. The command center was bathed in the cool blue and green light of the main view screen. Kalen and Eris were not there. But the center console was alive. The holographic projection of the geometric pattern, the one Ilara had seen in her mother's lab, was now fully formed, spinning slowly above the console. The countdown timer was flashing red and urgent, I0130.8. 1 minute and 3 seconds. Ilara's eyes darted to the main view screen. The colossal, dark vessel outside was closer now, its intricate patterns almost visible in detail. And from its surface, slender tendrils of light, like luminous roots, were reaching out, gently, slowly, towards the Stardust Lumen. Panic warred with a strange sense of awe. She had to stop them. Or help them. She didn't know which. She looked at the console. The main controls were locked, requiring parental authorization. But there were secondary panels, usually used for diagnostics and environmental adjustments. Her eyes fell on one labeled Harmonic Resonance Emitter, Manual Override. This must be it. This was the Lumen song. She remembered her mother's words. The Star Child is the key. And the crystalline device in her pocket, labeled Data Conduit Transceiver, pulsing in her hand. With trembling fingers, Ilara pulled out the crystal. It radiated warmth, a gentle thrumming that felt like a heartbeat. She looked at the main console, then back at the glowing diagram. The geometric pattern on the crystal matched a specific node in the holographic projection, a central nexus point. What if the Star Child wasn't a person they were looking for? What if it was a property? A capability? What if Sheng was the key? Taking a deep breath, Ilara pressed the crystalline device against the identified node on the holographic projection. A jolt. Not painful, but profound. A wave of energy surged through her, connecting her to the lumen, to the crystal, and to something vast and ancient beyond the ship. Images flashed through her mind. Nebulae forming and dissolving, the birth and death of stars, the silent, slow dance of galaxies across eons. She felt a presence, not a mind in the human sense, but an immense benevolent awareness, observing, waiting. The whispers. They weren't just sounds. They were thoughts, feelings, memories, echoing through the fabric of space itself. The countdown timer on the console vanished, replaced by a single shimmering word, projected in light, connecting on. Outside, the tendrils of light from the dark vessel reached the Stardust Lumen. Instead of impact, they dissolved into a shimmering embrace, wrapping around the ship like a gentle cocoon. The lumen's deep thrum intensified not with urgency but with a profound resonant joy. The main view screen shimmered, and the image of the dark vessel blurred, then resolved into something else entirely. It wasn't a ship. It was a living entity, vast and luminous, composed of swirling stardust and pure energy, its intricate patterns shifting and reforming like a cosmic kaleidoscope. It was beautiful, terrifying, and utterly alien. And it was singing. A silent song that vibrated directly into Ilara's soul, a symphony of starlight and ancient wisdom. Then, a new voice, clear and resonant, echoed through the command center, not through speakers, but directly into Ilara's mind. The Star Child has awakened. The song is complete. Ilara gasped, stumbling back from the console. The crystalline device fell from her hand, its light dimming slightly. Just then, the door to the command center hissed open. Kalen and Eris stood there, their faces pale, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. They had heard the voice too. They had seen the connection. Their gazes fell on Ilara, standing next to the shimmering console, the crystalline device at her feet. "Ilara?" Eris whispered, her voice barely audible. Kalen stepped forward, his eyes scanning the console, then the view screen, then back to his daughter. "What have you done?" he asked, his voice laced with awe, not anger. The cosmic entity outside pulsed with a final brilliant flash of light, and then, slowly, gracefully, began to recede into the void, leaving behind a trail of shimmering stardust, like a path leading to an unknown destination. The lumen's hum subsided, returning to its gentle familiar thrum. The connection, though no longer active, felt permanent, a subtle echo deep within Ilara. Eris rushed to Ilara, kneeling, her hands gently touching her daughter's face. "Are you all right, sweetie? What happened?" Ilara looked from her mother's anxious face to her father's astonished one, then back at the receding starlight trail. The whispers were gone, replaced by a profound, peaceful silence. But the questions remained, larger and more dazzling than any star. I think I just answered the song," Ilara whispered, her voice barely a breath. "I think I connected us." She looked at the shimmering path left by the cosmic entity. "And I think it's inviting us to follow." I think I just answered the song," Ilara whispered, her voice barely a breath. "I think I connected us." She looked at the shimmering path left by the cosmic entity. "And I think it's inviting us to follow." Lena knelt instantly, her hands gently cupping Ilara's face, her eyes searching for any sign of distress, fever, anything out of the ordinary. Sweetie, what do you mean, connected us? What did you feel? Are you all right? Her voice, usually so calm and melodic, was laced with a frantic edge. Aris, ever the scientist, was already at the main console, his fingers flying across the holographic interface. Nova. What was that energy signature? Cross-reference with all known celestial phenomena. Alara, honey, describe what happened. Don't leave anything out. His face was a mask of professional intensity, but the tremor in his voice betrayed his paternal anxiety. The ship's AI Nova, a soothing synthesized contralto, responded immediately. Anomalous energy signature detected, originating from the previously observed entity. Classification, unknown. Energy output, immeasurable by current metrics. It propagated a resonance pattern directly towards Wanderlight. My sensors indicate a unique neural interface established with Alara Thorn. Subsequent to this interface, the entity's trajectory shifted, creating a stable, though highly localized warp. Aris stared at the data scrolling across the screen, his mind struggling to reconcile the impossible. A navigable conduit? Nova, are you suggesting a wormhole created by that? The energetic properties are consistent with a localized, stable, and self-sustaining warp field akin to a naturally occurring wormhole, but with an artificially intelligent signature. Nova confirmed, her voice devoid of judgment. The conduit is stable for approximately 18.7 standard cycles, after which its integrity is projected to degrade rapidly. Lena looked up from Alara, her gaze sweeping from the console to the shimmering, inviting path outside. An artificially intelligent signature? You mean it made this path for us? She turned back to Alara, whose eyes were wide with a profound, almost ancient understanding. Alara, what did you do? I didn't shadow anything, Mama, Alara insisted, her small hands reaching out as if to touch the star-dusted trail. It was like a question, a feeling, like it was lost, or lonely, or looking for something. And I just felt the answer. It wasn't words, it was a knowing. And then it felt like it knew me, and it asked if we wanted to see. Aris pushed away from the console, his gaze fixed on his daughter. It asked you, telepathically? Alara nodded, a faint blush on her cheeks. It wasn't like talking. It was a picture in my mind of the path, and a feeling of welcome. She pointed a small finger at the receding trail. It's waiting. A heavy silence descended upon the bridge, broken only by the hum of the ship's life support and Nova's soft data readouts. Aris and Lena exchanged a long, troubled look. They were scientists, explorers. They had traversed countless parsecs, discovered new nebulae, catalogued thousands of exoplanets. But this was beyond anything in their extensive experience. A sentient, cosmic entity, communicating with their daughter, creating a temporary warp conduit specifically for them. It's a trap, Lena whispered, her protective instincts flaring. It could be an illusion, a lure. We don't know anything about this entity. Its intentions, its nature. But what if it's not? Aris countered, his scientific curiosity warring with his fear. What if it's an unprecedented first contact? The implications for humanity, for our understanding of the universe. He ran a hand through his already disheveled hair. And Alara. She established a connection. A unique interface, Nova said. The interface is stable and appears benign, Nova interjected. No adverse physiological or neurological effects detected in Alara Thorn. In fact, her theta and delta brainwave activity has increased, suggesting enhanced cognitive processing and awareness. Alara, meanwhile, had pressed her face against the viewport, her breath fogging the reinforced glass. The shimmering trail was beginning to stretch, to elongate into a tunnel of swirling starlight and cosmic dust. It's fading, isn't it? She whispered, a note of sadness in her voice. We have to go now or we'll miss it. Aris looked at Lena, his gaze pleading. We can't just ignore this, Lena, not after Alara. after it connected with her, what if it's truly an invitation? What if it's the most important discovery we'll ever make? Lena's heart ached with indecision. Her love for Elara, her desire to protect her, was paramount. But she also saw the wonder in her daughter's eyes, the profound certainty. And she knew her husband. His entire life had been dedicated to unraveling the universe's mysteries. This was the ultimate mystery. She sighed, a long, weary sound. What are the risks, Nova, if we enter this conduit? Unknown, Nova replied promptly. However, if a Wonder Lighting is equipped with advanced shielding and structural integrity beyond any standard vessel, its experimental quantum leap drive, while never tested in a naturally occurring wormhole, is theoretically capable of navigating such phenomena. The primary risk factor is the unknown nature of the destination and the entity itself. And if we don't go? Lena asked, looking at the growing distance between them and the shimmering path. The conduit will collapse, Nova stated. The entity's resonance signature will dissipate. The opportunity for interaction will cease. Elara turned from the viewport, her face earnest. Please, Mama. Please, Papa. It's not scary. It feels warm. Like home, but bigger. That was it. Like home, but bigger. Lena looked at her husband, then at her daughter. Elara's intuition, her pure, unburdened perception, often cut through the complexities that tangled adult minds. All right, Lena said, her voice firming with a new resolve. But we proceed with extreme caution. Eris, prep the quantum leap drive. Nova, I want full sensor sweeps, continuous environmental analysis, and a direct neural link to Elara's readings. Every anomaly, every shift, I want to know instant. Iris's eyes lit up with a mixture of excitement and grim determination. Understood. Initiating pre-warp sequence. Nova, plot a course directly into the conduit. Course plotted, Nova confirmed. Engaging structural integrity fields. Charging quantum leap drive to minimal output. Readiness for entry in 30 seconds. Elara let out a small, excited gasp, pressing her hands back against the viewport. The trail was now a distinct tunnel, swirling with colors no human eye had ever truly seen. A spectrum beyond violet, a depth beyond black. Hold on tight, sweetie, Iris said, moving back to the pilot seat. He reached across the console to squeeze Lena's hand, a silent promise of shared responsibility and unwavering protection. The Ye Wanderleiten, a sleek, pearlescent vessel designed for long-duration deep space exploration, vibrated gently as its engines spooled up. It wasn't built for speed in conventional space, but for stability and self-sufficiency, a true home among the stars. Its primary observation deck, where they stood, offered an almost unobstructed 360-degree view of the cosmos. As Nova counted down, the shimmering tunnel grew closer, filling the entire forward view. It didn't look like space as they knew it. It was a kaleidoscope of light and shadow, of swirling energy that pulsed with an internal rhythm. Elara closed her eyes for a moment, a faint smile on her face. It's singing, she whispered. 10 seconds to entry, Nova announced. Iris took a deep breath, his knuckles white on the controls. Lena wrapped an arm around Elara, pulling her close, but her gaze remained fixed on the unfolding spectacle. 5, 4, 2, 1. With a barely perceptible lurch, the Wanderlight plunged into the heart of the cosmic conduit. The bridge was instantly bathed in an ethereal, shifting light. The stars outside were no longer pinpricks of light, but streaked lines, then coalesced into swirling, incandescent rivers that flowed around the ship. It wasn't a dizzying speed, but a profound, almost dreamlike transition. The walls of the conduit seemed to be made of pure energy, flickering with impossible hues, electric blues, vibrant magentas, deep indigos that pulsed with inner light. Sensors are reading extreme energy fluctuations. But Wanderlight's shields are holding stable, Nova reported, her voice remarkably calm despite the extraordinary circumstances. Environmental integrity maintained. Gravitational forces nominal. Elara, far from being overwhelmed, seemed to thrive in this new environment. She pulled away from Lena, her eyes wide, tracing patterns in the swirling light. It's like a giant breath, she murmured. It's breathing us in. Aris, still gripping the controls, watched the data streams intently. The conduit isn't a straight line. It's twisting, turning, almost like a neural pathway itself. Nova, can you map this trajectory? Attempting to map, but the spatial dimensions are highly fluid, Nova replied. The conduit appears to be self-correcting, adapting to Wan-Thi Wanderlight's passage. Elara's neural signature is providing an anchor point, a navigational beacon within the conduit. Lena looked at Elara, her heart swelling with a mix of awe and a faint trepidation. Their daughter wasn't just a passenger. She was an integral part of this journey, a bridge between two realities. Elara, what do you feel now? Elara closed her eyes again, a serene expression on her face. It's, telling me stories, Mama. Not with words, but with pictures. It's showing me where it's been. So many places. So many lights. She opened her eyes, gazing at the swirling tunnel. It wants us to see them too. As Elara spoke, the conduit seemed to respond. The light intensified, and for a fleeting moment they saw glimpses of other realities within the swirling energy. Not clear images, but flashes. A nebula shaped like a colossal eye, a galaxy spiraling with unheard-of vibrancy, a world bathed in the light of 3 suns, its sky a canvas of perpetual twilight. Each glimpse lasted only a second, then dissolved back into the general flow of the conduit. Iris whistled softly. Those weren't just random projections, Nova, were they? Elara, are those places where the entity has traveled? Affirmative, Nova confirmed. The neural link with Elara Thorne is transmitting highly complex experiential data. The entity is sharing its journey, its memories, via the conduit's energy field. Elara is acting as a conduit for this information. Lena felt a shiver run down her spine, but it wasn't entirely from fear. It was the thrill of genuine discovery, the breathtaking realization of what they were witnessing. They weren't just traveling, they were experiencing the universe through the eyes, or senses, of an ancient cosmic entity. Hours passed, or perhaps moments. Time seemed to lose its meaning within the conduit. The initial apprehension began to give way to a profound sense of wonder. Elara, sitting cross-legged on the floor, her face upturned, continued to absorb the torrent of information, occasionally murmuring observations about the colors and feelings she was experiencing. It's very old, Mama, she said once, her voice hushed. Older than the stars. And it's alone. A flicker of sadness crossed her face. But it's happy we're here. Aris, despite his scientific rigor, found himself utterly captivated. He was an astrophysicist. He dealt with grand scales of space and time. But this entity, this being of pure energy and consciousness, dwarfed all previous understanding. He could see why it had connected with Elara. Her open, innocent mind was perhaps the only one capable of truly receiving its message without filtering it through preconceived notions. Nova, how much longer until conduit degradation? He asked, finally tearing his gaze away from the hypnotic view. Projected degradation in T-2.3 standard cycles, Nova replied. However, there is a significant energy signature at the terminus of the conduit. It is unique. Unique how? Lena pressed. It is not a planet, nor a star, nor a black hole, Nova explained. It is a concentrated field of non-baryonic matter, interwoven with resonant energy patterns. It appears to be a construct. An immense, stable, conscious construct. The word hung in the air. A conscious constructum. Not a natural phenomenon, but something built. Something deliberately formed by an intelligence beyond human comprehension. As Nova spoke, the nature of the conduit outside began to change. The swirling colors became less chaotic, more structured. They started to resolve into distinct geometric patterns, intricate and impossibly vast. It was as if the conduit itself was morphing, preparing them for the transition. Elara gasped, pointing. Look! It's like a giant flower, but made of light. Indeed, ahead of them, the tunnel was opening into a vast, luminous expanse. It wasn't the blackness of space, but a field of pure, vibrant light that pulsed and shifted like a living organism. At its center, a structure began to resolve, not solid, not liquid, but a shimmering, multidimensional lattice of pure energy. It looked like a colossal, crystalline neural network, spanning light years, its filaments glowing with an inner luminescence. "We are approaching the terminus," Nova announced. "Conduit integrity is now at 50%. Recommend immediate exit." Iris adjusted the controls, guiding Wanderlight towards an opening in the light construct, a gap that seemed to beckon them. "Exciting conduit now. Brace for spatial transition." With another gentle lurch, Wanderlight slipped out of the warp field tunnel and into the luminous expanse. The view was breathtaking. They were suspended in a sea of pure radiant light. There were no stars, no galaxies, no familiar cosmic landmarks. Only the vast, intricate energy lattice that stretched in every direction, seemingly without end. Each intersection of the lattice pulsed with a soft internal glow, and through the filaments flowed rivers of light, like thoughts traversing a colossal brain. "Nova? External sensors? What is this place?" Iris breathed, his voice filled with awe. "Environmental analysis indicates a stable, self-contained pocket of spacetime," Nova reported. "The energy lattice appears to be composed of highly organized dark energy and exotic matter, interwoven with a complex sentient consciousness. This construct, why is the entity, or at least its physical manifestation?" Elara, eyes wide, whispered, "It's its mind, Papa. It built itself a home out of thoughts and light." Lena could only stare, her mind struggling to process the scale of it all. This wasn't a ship, or a station, or even a planet. It was an entire realm. A universe-sized brain made of pure energy and intention. And they, a tiny speck of carbon-based life, were floating within it. As if underlighting drifted deeper into the luminous realm, the filaments of the energy lattice seemed to converge, forming a vast open chamber around them. Within this chamber the light pulsed with a gentle rhythm like a heartbeat. And then, a new phenomenon. From the interwoven filaments, smaller tendrils of light began to extend, flowing towards a tiny, Wanderlight. They weren't aggressive, but curious, probing. "Energy tendrils approaching," Nova warned. "Passive interaction detected." They appeared to be scanning Wanderlight and its occupants. Elara laughed, a clear joyous sound that echoed in the silent bridge. "It's saying hello, Mama. It's happy we came." She reached out her hand towards the approaching tendrils of light, unafraid. One of the luminous tendrils, thicker and brighter than the others, paused directly in front of the viewport. It pulsed, and within its light, faint ethereal images began to form. They weren't words but symbols, glyphs of light that shifted and reformed, telling a story without a single spoken sound. Lena, the xenolinguist, felt an instinctual pull to understand. She pressed her hand against the viewport, her mind reaching out, trying to decipher the patterns. The symbols spoke of creation, of vast cosmic cycles, of loneliness, and of a profound desire for connection. Iris, meanwhile, was at the console, trying to interface with Nova's sensor data. "Can we translate these glyphs, Nova? Is there a pattern? A language?" "The patterns are non-linear and highly contextual," Nova replied. "However, Elara Thorne's neural interface is actively processing and interpreting the data. Her brainwave activity is mirroring the patterns displayed by the entity." Elara, her face glowing in the light of the tendril, looked at her parents. "It's telling us. It's been waiting. For a long, long time. And it wants to know what we are and what we want." The tendril pulsed again, and the images within it changed. Now they showed not cosmic history, but a vision of their own ship. By the Wanderlight, drifting through space. Then, images of Elara, her parents, their home planet Earth, vibrant and blue. The entity was asking about Itham. "It's curious about us," Lena whispered, tears pricking her eyes. "It wants to learn. It wants to know humanity." Iris felt a wave of profound humility. They had come seeking answers, and instead, they had found a consciousness of unimaginable scale, asking them questions. The tendril of light pulsed one last time, and the images coalesced into a single complex symbol that seemed to vibrate with unspoken meaning. It was an invitation, a question, and a promise, all at once. "What does it say, sweetie?" Lena asked, her voice hushed. Elara looked from the symbol to her parents, her eyes shining with an intelligence that seemed far beyond her years. "It says, will you share your song with mine? Will you stay a while and show me the wonders of your small bright lives?" She paused, then added, "And it says, there is so much more to see if you are brave enough to look together." The vast luminous chamber pulsed around them, and the tendrils of light remained, patiently waiting for their answer. Wonderlighting, a tiny vessel in a universe of living light, was poised at the threshold of a discovery that would redefine existence. The journey had ended, but the true adventure had only just begun. The vast luminous chamber pulsed around them, and the tendrils of light remained, patiently waiting for their answer. The Wonderlighting, a tiny vessel in a universe of living light, was poised at the threshold of a discovery that would redefine existence. The journey had ended, but the true adventure had only just begun. Captain Elara lowered the data slate, her hand trembling ever so slightly. The silence in the cockpit was profound, broken only by the gentle hum of the ship's life support, and the soft, rhythmic pulsing of the light tendrils outside. She looked at her crew. Lyra, the stoic navigator, her usual composure, replaced by a look of bewildered awe. Kale, the xenolinguist, his face a mixture of intellectual exhilaration and quiet fear. And young Jax, the engineer, whose eyes, wide as twin nebulae, reflected the chamber's impossible light. "There is so much more to see if you are brave enough to look together," Elara repeated, her voice a hushed whisper, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the delicate moment. The message echoed not just in the air but deep within their very bones. It was an invitation, a challenge, a promise. Fear was a cold knot in Elara's stomach, a primal instinct warning against the unknown. This was beyond any protocol, any scientific theory. But beneath the fear, a stronger current surged, the unyielding curiosity that had drawn them light years from home, the yearning for discovery that defined humanity. She met Lyra's gaze, then Kale's, then Jack's. There was hesitation, yes, but also a shared, undeniable spark. They were explorers. This was what they were born for. Lyra, usually the voice of caution, gave a slow, deliberate nod. "We came here to find answers, Captain," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. This is the ultimate answer." Kale, ever the interpreter, added, "It's not just about what we see. It's about what we see in us. Our small bright lives, there's a reciprocity here, Captain. A chance for mutual understanding on a cosmic scale." Jax, usually shy, piped up, "It's beautiful, Captain. I want to see it." His youthful bravery cut through the last vestiges of Elara's doubt. Elara took a deep breath, the decision solidifying within her. "All right," she said, her voice gaining strength. "Prepare for direct interface. Lyra, maintain ship integrity. Kale, monitor all biosignatures. Jax, keep our power system stable. We accept." She looked at the patiently waiting tendrils of light. "We are ready to look together." As if understanding, the light tendrils stirred. They didn't retreat, nor did they surge forward aggressively. Instead, they expanded, growing softer, more diffuse, enveloping Gaia Wanderlight not with force, but with an impossibly gentle embrace. A warmth seeped into the ship, a soft hum resonating through the deck plates and into their very bones. It wasn't a sound they heard with their ears, but a vibration felt in the core of their being. Then, the true transformation began. The light didn't just illuminate, it permeated. It bypassed their sensors, their shields, even the physical barrier of their ship. It flowed into their minds, not as a piercing beam, but as a vast, gentle current. There was no pain, no disorientation, only a profound sense of expansion. It was like falling into a dream, but more real than anything they had ever experienced. Their individual consciousnesses remained, distinct and whole, yet they were suddenly connected, not just to each other, but to something immeasurably vaster. It was as if their minds had become windows, flung wide open to an infinite vista. They saw. But it wasn't just sight. They perceived. They understood it. The universe unfolded before them, not as distant stars and empty space, but as a single, living, breathing entity. They witnessed the birth of galaxies as gentle swirls of cosmic dust coalescing into brilliant nurseries, felt the immense gravitational dance of black holes as a slow, majestic ballet. Time became fluid. They perceived the eons-long life cycle of a star in a single flickering moment, the slow, patient evolution of life on countless worlds like a symphony playing out across eternity. The living light wasn't just a species or a single being. It was the fundamental awareness woven into the fabric of reality itself, a cosmic consciousness that experienced all, connected all. It was the universe experiencing itself through myriad forms, from the smallest proton to the grandest supercluster. And then, the light turned its perception towards them. It wasn't an invasive probe, but a gentle, curious inquiry. The entity wasn't asking for data, it was asking to eye a feeling. And so, they showed it. Not with conscious effort, but by simply being. Jax's wonder at seeing his first shooting star as a child, the quiet joy of repairing a complex circuit, the simple comfort of his mother's hug, these sensations flowed out, rich and vibrant. Kale's intellectual thrill of deciphering an ancient alien script. The bittersweet pang of loneliness for home, the deep satisfaction of learning, these emotions became clear, tangible. Lyra's fierce dedication to her crew, the focused calm of navigating through a dangerous asteroid field, the quiet pride in a mission accomplished. These strengths shone brightly. And Alara, her love for her family back on Earth, the weight of responsibility for her crew, the quiet hope for humanity's future, the persistent ache of longing for the familiar, and the exhilarating pull of the unknown. These complex, deeply human experiences poured forth. The light entity absorbed it all. It wasn't just receiving information. It was empathizing. It felt the warmth of their love, the chill of their fear, the fire of their curiosity. It perceived the intricate dance of individual consciousness within the finite frame of a lifespan, the unique beauty of contained experiences. It was a symphony of human emotion, played out for a cosmic audience, and the light responded with a feeling of profound understanding. Almost a gentle surprise at the richness and intensity of these small, bright lives. In return, they understood the interconnectedness of everything. Their individuality wasn't lost, but amplified, understood as a unique, precious note in a cosmic chord. They grasped that death wasn't an end, but a transformation, a return to the universal awareness that sustained all. They felt a sense of belonging so profound it brought tears to their eyes, yet also a renewed appreciation for their unique, fragile existence. There was a moment, a zenith, where the boundaries blurred completely. They were one with the universe, yet perfectly themselves. They were the stars, the dust, the void, and the life that bloomed within it all. A feeling of infinite peace settled upon them, a boundless potential stretching out before them, within them. Slowly, gently, the embrace began to recede. The warmth softened. The hum quieted. The vast, unfathomable understanding began to fold back into the corners of their minds, leaving behind not emptiness, but a resonant echo. They were back in a mighty wonder light, their eyes open, staring at each other. No words were needed. Their faces reflected the same quiet, profound shift. Tears traced paths down Lyra's cheeks, a faint beatific smile played on Kale's lips, and Jax, his eyes still wide, whispered, "It was like dreaming but awake." Alara's voice was soft, husky, when she finally spoke. We saw. We understood," Lyra finished, her voice thick with emotion. The chamber still pulsed around them, but the tendrils of light were now soft, quiescent, like gentle arms that had just released a precious child. The invitation had been accepted, the encounter completed. Wanderlighting turned slowly, its engines thrumming softly, no longer driven by mere exploration, but by purpose. The journey home would be different. They hadn't just discovered something, they had become on something more. Their understanding of the universe was forever altered, their perception of life irrevocably expanded. They carried the light within them now, the quiet knowing that they were part of something infinitely vast and beautiful, and that their small, bright lives held a unique and irreplaceable value in the grand tapestry of existence. They knew, with a certainty that transcended logic, that there was indeed so much more to see, and that the greatest wonders were always found when you were brave enough to look together. And as you close your eyes tonight, little one, remember Key Wanderlight and its crew. Remember the living light and the message it shared. For even in your own small bright life, you are connected to everything, a precious spark in a universe of wonder. And if you are brave enough to look together with open heart and mind, who knows what incredible things you might discover in the quiet spaces between the stars, and even in the quiet spaces within your dreams.